and welcome to another edition of Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham, where team you discuss everything healthcare. I'm your host, Shawn Needham, along with my wonderful wife, Janet, and we are super excited to be streaming from the Moses Lake Professional Pharmacy podcast studio, and super excited to have Angie Gallagher back on our show. She is an endurance marathon runner, trail runner, and she's going to be talking about diet. She's also a registered dietitian. I hope I'm saying that right. And she was in the traditional system, and she got out of that because she was kind of disenfranchised about how the traditional system talks to patients about diet. So one of the things we're going to be discussing today with her is fasting as an endurance athlete. And we'll just talk about fasting in general. Believe me, there's a lot of controversy about fasting. And I know doctors that say that fasting is dangerous and we don't need to fast. And those same doctors will let patients eat constantly all day long and create diabetes, but they say fasting is dangerous. So Angie, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
So tell us a little bit about your history. I introduced you a little bit, but tell us about your history and how you came to be on this podcast.
Yeah, thank you. So I am actually not a registered dietitian. I'm a certified functional medicine wellness coach.
I apologize.
So yeah. Oh no, it's okay. Just wanted to be clear about my credentials. And then also a clinical exercise physiologist. Most of my work was in the clinical setting in cardiac rehab. As you mentioned, I was working in the more Western medicine role. So so I went back to school when I started seeing too many sort of revolving door patients where we really just didn't seem to be getting at the true root of their cardiovascular disease, even though their blood pressure was controlled, cholesterol was controlled, like all this, classic numbers. And I knew there was something we weren't getting at. So I went back to school, got certified in the functional medicine coaching. So that's what brings me here and running my own coaching business. And at the same time that I moved from the Western medicine model into working in my own business as a functional medicine coach, I ran my first ultra marathon. So that's that's sort of the start of my ultra journey, and then weaving in fasting here and there as part of the whole program.
Now, define ultra. Where's the cutoff with ultra?
Yeah, everybody wants to know. It's a good question. So ultra is anything over 26.2.
Yeah.
So an ultra marathon is anything beyond that. Typically, the first distance, the shortest distance after a marathon, the shortest ultra distance is usually a 50K. So that's what I have coming up this Saturday is the McDonald Forest 50K, and that was the first one I ever did 4 years ago. So.
Wow. Wait, 50K is about 30 miles, correct?
It's like between 30. The courses change all the time, and so it's anywhere between 30 and 32. So You just kind of have to expect it's going to be somewhere in that range.
So, Janet, first of all, I want you to ask any questions you have to start with.
Well, I love the subject about fasting because, like Shawn says, this is an ongoing controversy right now.
Yeah.
One of the things from the nutritional side that I find really kind of complex and really kind of silly is that, what really is the definition of fasting? Because some people think it's just you didn't eat for 5 hours, or you didn't eat before you worked out, or you didn't know. So let's define what we mean first.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there's, fasting and intermittent fasting. So it's just like an umbrella term. So there's all different approaches to fasting. You can intermittent fast, which is, just basically extending your fasting window. And for a lot of people, that means skipping breakfast and not eating until lunch, or some people have the OMAD, the 1 meal a day lifestyle, where they just basically fast until dinner and have 1 meal a day. So it can be anything like, a 14-hour fasting window up to like a 16 or 18-hour fasting window. Dr. Mindy Pels talks about at 17 hours, that's when you start seeing some cellular sort of detox. You start seeing more repair in that 17-hour window, improved immune function. So, and then there's extended fast, which is what I've been playing around with a little bit more, which is like the 24-hour, 36, 48. I think I went as far as 72 was my longest.
And Tell us how this fits into how fasting changes or fits into your workout schedule when you're training or when you're running ultra marathons.
So I can't say that I'm super scientific about it. I definitely err on the side of being more intuitive versus like super scientific. I will not go out, and if I'm fasting, I won't go out and try to crush it. Like I won't go out and try to have my fastest time on anything or try to get Strava segment, PRs or anything like that. It's just all about listening to my body. If I know I have something big coming up, then I might, do like a 24-hour fast, like 5 days ahead, like I'm doing a 24-hour fast right now. And then I have my 50K on Saturday, but I'll definitely take those few days prior to the race to definitely get my protein up and activate protein, muscle synthesis and be in good shape for the race. But throughout the rest of my training, I kind of base my fasting on when I feel like I need it, based on if I'm feeling really inflamed, if I haven't been sticking quite as tightly to what I know to be like the best diet for me. And so I just will say I'm going to do at least 24 hours. And then I kind of feel into it. And like, I feel really good. I think I'm going to go ahead and push it to 2 days. And then and then your hunger stops. So then I'm like, I think I'll go ahead and push it to 3, and I'll run in those stretches, but I won't try to run fast. I'll just go out and try to keep moving. I've gone rock climbing before when I was fasted, and I felt great. So I think there's this really like misconception that so many people have, and a lot of people in the running community have, where it's like they are afraid to do anything in a fasted state. It's like, I'm going to go run 6 miles. So let me calculate how many carbs I need to eat before I go out for a run. And everything is very like regimented about how am I going to run? How much am I going to run? How much am I going to eat? And they're afraid to go do it fasted. And yet you see a lot of people in the running community that clearly have enough on them to burn. I mean, there's a lot of people that which I love about ultra running is it's approachable for everybody. It's accessible for everybody. People can be ultra runners when they're, a little bit heavier set than you don't see that in like sprinters. So I love that. But I also see a lot of people out there fueling on pizza and donuts, and literally like they're doing like a 60-mile training race, and their spouse is meeting them at different aid stations and giving them donuts and pizza and cookies and like all this crap. And, they've got plenty on them to burn. So it's really interesting to see this mindset that people have.
It is so much going on over the last 2 minutes. I love the discussion and your examples. And, I think we get so hung up on, needing to fuel. And as an endurance athlete myself, I get it. You've already kind of said some things. It's like intensity matters.
Yeah.
So, and I know the people that are super pro fasting and super pro keto, they basically say you don't need carbs and yada, yada, yada. I'll also say this. Those people that say that, they've never done an endurance type event where their heart rate is at 170 for 2 hours. I guarantee it. Because you are not going to be drinking oil and eating steak when your heart rate's 170.
No.
Right? I mean, or whatever your zone 4, zone 5 heart rate is.
Right. Yeah.
It's hard to drink water with sugar in it, or drink water, period, let alone to actually get real food in you.
Absolutely.
So, depending on intensity, now would I eat, do I eat pizza during a race? No, I would eat more liquid carbohydrates because they're easier to digest. But by the same token, there's a place for carbs. But
yes.
Also, here's what the keto people don't understand either. It's just I'm picking on them, and they say that they act like us endurance athletes know nothing about ketosis. Right. Yet, let's face it, Angie, as endurance athletes, we do know this, and we've known it for way before keto was cool. Is that we can only fuel a couple hundred calories an hour maybe 300 calories an hour at most, depending on intensity.
Right.
The intensity, the less we can fuel because our gut just can't
Right.
digest.
Can't do it. Right.
Right. You can't do it. But we're burning upwards of 1,000 calories an hour.
Mm-hmm.
But let's face it, Angie, as endurance athletes, we've been in ketosis a lot.
Absolutely.
So when they say we don't know anything about fasting, it's absolutely not true. First of all, you can be in ketosis and kind of be in a fasted state if you're burning the fuel you're eating, right?
Uh-huh.
So speak on that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's so interesting as, again, like I think back to like people who I've run with, and because my diet is generally like, pretty balanced. I don't eat a ton of carbs. I'm not keto by any stretch, but I don't eat a ton of carbs either. And I'll go out with running friends and we'll be at like mile 4 and I'm just like getting into a zone and feeling great. And they're like, stopping and starting to pull out the snacks, it's like, and they're very sugar burner, like they're sugar burning machines, and they can't go more. That's like mile 4, time to start eating the waffles and, whatever. And I'm like, they all have like, extra on them. And I'm like, generally don't have a lot of extra weight on me, but I feel fine. I can keep going. So I know that I have been able to be in ketosis and been able to, fuel myself that way for long stretches of time. That being said, you're right. When you're out there, like when I'm out there for 7 hours, I can't just rely on burning fat. Like I have to be getting something in, every hour to be able to stay functioning and cross the finish line. But yeah, we're absolutely in ketosis because you can't eat that much. You can't.
You got it. Right.
It's hard.
It's hard enough to drink.
Yeah.
It's hard enough to drink. Absolutely.
Yeah. You can't eat 700 to 1,000 calories an hour.
No.
In exercise, you just can absolutely not do it.
Right. So you have to train your body to be able to do that. And that's where fasting, I think, is so helpful. Is, when you live that lifestyle, then you automatically go into your training with the advantage of your body knowing how to go after that stored fat.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And here's one of the things, even when you do the math, even those of us, let's just say those of us that are super lean, like yourself, let's just say you have 10% body fat. And I'm just going to use easy math because I can't think very fast. So let's say you weigh 100 pounds, you have 10% body fat. You have 10 pounds of fat on your body. Yeah. That means times 9 calories. That's 9,000 calories you have stored in your body, right? Yeah. No, per gram. Yeah. Per gram. I'm not even doing that right. You have to go 9 times 2.2, 9 pounds. You figure out how many grams it is. 9 pounds times 454 grams. You've got hundreds of thousands of calories stored in fat. Yeah. Sorry, I wasn't thinking right.
I'll believe you. My brain's not like doing math right now, but it's a lot of calories to use.
Right, a lot of calories. So you could run a triathlon fasted. Yeah. And there's probably somebody that's done it. I'm imagining. Here's the thing. I don't think you could do it at intensity. I think it would be very difficult to do it at intensity. But when you look at most triathletes, the age groupers, and most of the endurance runners, not all of them, but most of them, they're in what? Zone 1, zone 2, maybe touching zone 3 for the majority of their event. Is that true?
When you're doing like a really long extended endurance, probably zone 2, 3. Maybe at short intervals getting up into the higher, but right. So you can totally fuel with fat stores.
Exactly. Yeah. So now what is your thought about fasting being dangerous, especially during exercise?
Yeah, it's so interesting. There is just like, there's definitely people out there who really want to say that fasting wastes your muscle. That, people just like and I just feel like there's this sort of closed, like people are afraid of fasting, and I was afraid of fasting. Like I love food, and I was the person that would wake up and be like putting food in my mouth from the moment I woke up and eating food till I went to bed. And I had wanted nothing to do with intermittent fasting. So I get like people are kind of stuck in that, like they think it's scary. And so they believe the science that says that it's bad and it's wasting your muscle. But There is no evidence. I mean, if you follow Dr. Mindy Powell's, I mean, she talks about this a lot. There is that safe fasting. Of course, if you fast for, over a month or something, you're probably going to lose some muscle, but safe intermittent fasting or, several day fasting does not show to waste muscle. And if you think about it from like this evolutionary standpoint, why would that be? Why would your body be burning its own muscle when there's fat to burn? Like, why would that even be a thing? It doesn't make any sense. Like, we have fat there as a secondary fuel source. It's just so bonkers that people think you're going to burn your muscle.
Well, we're at an all-time high for heart disease, diabetes, fatty liver, and it's all diet.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah, 100%. And so, I think that the safety thing is like, people are afraid. They don't want to wrap their mind around doing it because they're afraid of it personally. And so they want to believe the science that says it's dangerous and it's going to make me lose muscle. So I'm just not going to do it. So
we're good at storing energy, right? That's one of the reasons Americans are obese, because we're really good at storing excess energy.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us could go on sustained fast. I mean, depending on how you define the sustained fast, but for 1 or 2 days without any consequences whatsoever.
Absolutely. I mean, I actually follow a gal who did a 21-day fast, and she was not obese. She had a little extra, but not really that much. And she did 21 days. I don't know if that's for me, but she was documenting the whole time, and she felt good. She even did some workouts. So there's people doing really long fasts and seeing a lot of healing taking place when they're doing that.
One of the things, the term that always comes up is catabolic. Well, I want to be catabolic. And usually that's the bodybuilder type people that are worried about losing muscle mass. But I look at some of those guys or gals and say, well, I just don't want to be catabolic. And I look at their midsection and I'm like, you could really use to be catabolic. You've got a lot of extra fat to lose.
Mm-hmm.
They forget to mention that, or maybe they're ignorant that, catabolic also means burning fat. It means burning anything.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily burn muscle mass if you've had a lot of extra fat to burn. Now, I will say this. This is one thing that I just want to get out of the way. We act like our bodies are have an on-off switch. That, you're either burning glucose or you're burning fat, or you're burning sugar or you're burning fat, or you're burning muscle. That's absolutely not true. We are burning all those things all the time.
Right.
You need somewhat muscle. I say that because muscle is dynamic. We've got to break it down and build it up. Get bigger and stronger.
Right.
So we are always breaking down muscle. So now you don't want to do that long term necessarily. But I think if you eat relatively healthy and you still have fat reserves, you're not going to burn too much excess muscle. Now, if you're a bodybuilder and you're always trying to get bigger, I totally get it. You got to eat and eat constantly. I don't think it's healthy. Yeah. That's a whole topic for a whole other conversation. So.
Right. I mean, that's a whole other segment of the population that I wouldn't even pretend to have any knowledge about training them or where fasting would even fit into that. It's a whole different thing. My world is endurance. And I have just found that fasting has been just nothing but supportive for me. And you bring up a good point about maintaining muscle and rebuilding muscle. And that's where it's important when you're not fasting, because I feel like a lot of people, they use fasting as sort of an excuse to just kind of eat crap when they're not fasting.
Right.
And so I think it's really important that we understand that if we're gonna fast, whether it's intermittent or extended fast, that what we're eating when we're not fasting is we've got to be getting our protein, clean sources of protein, healthy, complex carbohydrates, healthy fats, and getting all those things in and really trying to minimize the crap. But I know a lot of people, they're like, that's their chance to eat their pizza and their pasta and their donuts. And it's like, it's all okay because then I fast.
Yeah, right. I agree with you 100%. Tell us what a typical endurance event looks like for you. Do you do any pre-carbohydrate, loading. I don't even like that. I think it gets overplayed.
I don't. That's another one that's just so interesting. Like the whole like carbo load sort of idea. I don't. I mean, like the night before my 50K, I'll have like, you've heard of Buddha bowls. And so I'll have a Buddha bowl and it'll probably have some kind of winter squash, a bunch of roasted veggies, plenty of protein, some fresh veggies, and it's pretty typical to what I eat most of the time, but I might have just a little more winter squash, or I might have some sweet potato in it. And that's my carb. And what I eat in the morning is, it's really hard for me to just like start my morning just loading up on a huge thing of carbs. Like I know people can just do a whole big bowl of oatmeal. I can't do that. I can't eat that much. So I try to have a little something, and then I just really try to fuel wisely during the race. It's just all about making sure I've got everything I need handy, and that I'm, I've tried to keep track of the time and how much have I eaten this last hour, and just try to stay on top of it that way.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I will say I pretty much do the same things. I do a little bit extra and drink some. And it's not mostly for when I drink liquid carbohydrates before my races, but it's not really necessarily for to get my carb stores up. It's really for hydration.
Yeah,
carbohydrates have a lot of water.
Absolutely.
I think it's 4 parts water to each carbohydrate or something. So I just want to be plenty hydrated is the important part for me.
Yes.
And the same thing during the race. I really drink liquid carbohydrates, eat very little solid food unless the race is going to be over 4 to 5 hours. And that way I stay hydrated. That's probably the most important part to me.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's really wise. I generally drink electrolytes, but which don't have the ones that I use don't really have any carbohydrates, but that's a really good point that I should be drinking more electrolytes that actually have some carbohydrates in them. Thank you for the reminder, because I have my LMNT or my Element, and that generally doesn't have any carbohydrates in it. And I should get something for the race that does, because it is really hard to eat when you're out there.
I will say you need to be careful if it's not something you normally do, because Shawn does, and I usually don't, because it irritates me. For whatever reason, that's not, and I get what he's saying. So just play with it before you decide to run a race.
That's true. Don't do something the first time on the day of a race.
Right. Don't try it. That's right. Don't try it before a race, because you could have miserable results.
Right. Yeah. I definitely can do my little those little goo packets. Like those seem to work pretty well. So I usually get those down. If my hands, depending on the weather, if my hands are too cold, then I can't open them. I'm stopping other people on the course. Like, will you open this for me?
And that's why I like to drink my carbohydrates, because it's just easier in the bottle. And I have electrolytes, usually Element in my bottles too. So. So what is your strategy for, if you're doing, so how long does a 50K take you? 5 hours, 6 hours? I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's anywhere between, so my first year, it was like just a few minutes over 7 hours. And I think my longest was, it was the year that we just had like just tons of mud. It was so thick. It was just really hard to get any kind of speed. So that was like 7 hours and I think almost 40 minutes. So I'm hoping to get around 7 hours this year. We'll see how it goes. The course changes every year. So there's no real way you don't know what you're going to be getting into. And then the weather, you just never know. So it's about
rainy,
7.5 hours. What's that?
If it's windy, rainy, you name it.
Yeah.
Part of it.
It's good.
And you're not running on pavement, so it's way different than.
You got a lot of elevation and the potential for lots of mud and weather. So it's an adventure. We just go into it with like it's a day in the woods, and you pretty much want to like you can't really push it that fast because you're out there for 7 hours. So so it's like I just sort of like I'll put on a good audiobook or a podcast, listen to music, and just enjoy the woods. It's just fun. It's type 2 fun, I guess. But but it's fun.
Pace is very important. So
Yes.
how many calories an hour do you try to shoot for? Do you have a number?
I probably end up getting between 300 and 400.
300 and 400. For 7-8 hour, for pushing 8 hours
per hour.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
about right.
That's probably about what I can get down. It's just, otherwise it's just hard to eat, but I feel like my fasting lifestyle really supports me, because I look around at the people I know that don't do any kind of fasting, or don't even try to like limit their carbs a little bit, and they are definitely hitting the wall sooner than me. So I feel like I've set myself up to be able to go the distance. In fact, I coached somebody, she was doing my program, and part of my program is intermittent fasting. And she took it so seriously that she wouldn't even have anything to eat before like a 15-mile training run. And then she wouldn't really eat much on the run. Like she had weight to lose, and she felt great. She's like, I trained my body how to use what's on it, and we weren't trying to set records, and she felt really good. So I just feel like that's just one thing that's really served me well, is just trying to get my body metabolically flexible. And you talked about that, alluded to that earlier, about our body's always burning multiple sources of energy, and that's what we want. And that's where I think the keto people do kind of get it wrong. It's like, I know people who've gone the keto lifestyle, and they literally can't have like a half a cup of milk without their blood sugar like going through the roof, because they just are not capable of handling, even a little bit of lactose. So I think this, fasting, but then incorporating complex carbs and having your body be able to burn all of the different sources of fuel is the optimal.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So when it comes to fasting, I guess one of the things I want to comment is that, you alluded to it. You had a gal you were coaching, and we'll talk about your coaching business a little bit later. And, she's running 15 miles fasted. Mm-hmm. And typically, and I'm sure you get this all the time, Angie, when somebody says, well, what should I eat before a workout, during a workout, and after a workout? Uh-huh. We're talking gym workouts, right?
Yep.
And one of their main goals is to lose weight.
Yeah.
And I'll tell them, it's like, look, you haven't burnt through all your glycogen. You don't need to eat before, during, and after a workout. I mean, seriously, that's the entire time, right? What's your comment about that?
So a good example that I feel like I like to share so people kind of understand how the body works is I went out, I didn't do 15 miles, but I went out on a 7 or 8 mile run, and I checked my blood sugar before, because I was doing my intermittent fasting, and my blood sugar was 76. And I felt great, felt fine. And I took off and did my run, and I felt great the whole time. Came back and it was like 115 afterward. And so it's such a good example, right? Like the body knows what to do. Right. And so it found the source of fuel that it needed, and it got it circulating in my blood, and I was able to do what I needed to do. And it's like, that's such a perfect example. Like, you will be fine. You do not need to eat before you go work out. I will tell people who are doing really intense strength training that they definitely need to have some protein within an hour or so after, if they're really pushing it. But yeah, just like a aerobic workout, no, you can go do it fasted. But people, I do like to work with people when they come into my program and they have that fear of fasting, because so many people do. They just come in and they're like, I don't know about this. I don't think it's safe. I don't think it's right. You have all these preconceptions. And so I always say, let's just work together. Let's baby step our way into it. You can still have breakfast, but let's start cutting down. Let's start reducing the carbs and just kind of work our way into it. And they will, start off with having a little something before their workout, and then they'll start cutting down. And pretty soon they're like, oh, I was able to work out without any food at all. Who would have thought, and they get there. They finally realize that they can do it. But I don't necessarily expect people to just cold turkey it, because I do want people to trust me, and I don't want the process to be miserable for them. So we do kind of work our way into it.
And I will say too, I think a lot of that is kind of like you're alluding to, it's mental.
Yeah.
You don't know it until you've actually done it or tried it. And
Exactly.
I even think sometimes as an endurance athlete, when, you just feel like you're ready to hit the wall, and you're ready to bonk or whatever, and you take one sip of sugar water, or you have a gel or whatever. Yeah. And I mean, immediately, like instantly you feel better. Well, it's probably right here.
Yeah, really I've totally felt that. Yeah, I've totally had that experience. Yeah, where I thought I was done. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to finish. And then I had like a gel, I had, maybe like 150 calories, and I was like ready to go. And yeah, so there's something that happens, whether it's totally mental or whether, it triggers some other physiologic process. I don't know for sure, but yeah, I think that it's experiential. People have to experience something in order to trust it and trust the process. And that's what I love about my program, is seeing people go from being like almost completely closed off to the idea of it. And then, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks later, they're like, oh my gosh, I feel amazing. My energy levels are so good. I don't even feel hungry. I'm waiting until noon to eat. I'm even people like working in manual labor. Like I have a gal that's a gardener, and she was convinced that the fasting lifestyle would never work for her because she's got, she lifts heavy pots and she's digging holes and she's doing great. She's doing great. Her energy levels are great. She lost 20 pounds. She's like, this is amazing. Yeah. So,
and really, and you alluded to it earlier about, evolutionarily speaking, but really we shouldn't be surprised. If you think about what our ancestors did generations and generations and generations ago, they worked outside all day long, basically with no food.
Right.
So they fasted most of the day, every day. And sometimes for days.
Right.
So we shouldn't really be surprised that our body can do that.
I know. It's like when you think about it, it just makes so much sense. They're going out on the hunt in a fasted state. So our bodies were designed to be able to do that. And we've just gotten so comfortable in our, houses with our pantries and our refrigerators and, access to food 24/7. And I was that person. I always tell people, I literally was like packing up my little package of like dark chocolate and nuts and dried fruit. And I would start eating at like 6 o'clock in the morning and just like grazing my way through the day. My blood sugars were pre-diabetic. Even though I wasn't really heavy, I had pre-diabetic blood sugars because I was just constantly putting food in my mouth. And so I just try to tell people, the gut's not designed for that. Like metabolically, we're not designed for that. Our digestive system is not designed for that. Like our gut can't heal or repair itself when it's constantly processing food. And so I teach the mantra to all of my clients. The sound of your stomach growling is the sound of your gut healing. It's the sound of fat being burned, and it's the sound of your longevity being like built up. Like, just think of that. Like you want that stomach growling. You want to experience that. Like, we're supposed to experience that.
That's right. So as we wind this podcast up, tell us a little bit more about your coaching business.
Yeah, so I run a 3-month health transformation and weight loss program. And once the 3 months is up, anyone who joins my program is a part of my community for life. So you pay for the program, and then once you've paid for the program, there's no more payments. You're in my community for life, because it's really important to me that people have success and maintain that success. And I want them to come back into the group coaching, stay active in the Facebook group. But what I do is using intermittent fasting as one of the approaches, I help people balance their metabolism, get to where they have that more like metabolic flexibility, where they're able to easily burn the stored fat. Heal their gut, learn how to balance their nervous system. We talk about everything as it pertains to health and balancing the nervous system. And there's group coaching, there's one-on-one coaching. They get 18 or 20 educational modules on all the different topics related to longevity. So it's very robust. And like the people who have gone through my program, who've taken advantage of all of it, will say, like, this was crazy. Like, I thought I knew a lot of stuff about health, but like I learned so much in your program about just health and longevity and just the basics of like how to make sure that you have that metabolic health and flexibility. And so it's really fun. It's just, I'm constantly getting amazing testimonials and feedback from people who will say, I tried everything. I tried every weight loss program out there, and I either lost the weight and gained it back, or I just kind of hit a plateau and couldn't get any further. And all of those people are seeing results with my program. So it's pretty exciting.
That is exciting. What's the name of your program?
Well, the program is called Transform Your Health, Turn Back Time. So longevity is really a big piece of it. I just, having worked in the Western medicine field and having seen what happens when people don't know how to take care of themselves, and then just knowing the reality of the people that are having to be cared for in nursing facilities, it's so sad. It's so, and just the increasing rates of Alzheimer's and cognitive decline. There's just so much that we can do to prevent that and give people like amazing years, in their later life. And I don't want to see more people than need to like go down that path of having to be taken care of and losing their independence. So quality of life and longevity are really important to me. And I want people to learn everything that there is to learn about building up their chances of that quality of life and longevity. Yeah.
So how do people find you?
So heartwellnesscoaching.com. They can go straight to my website, and I've got various links on my website for how they can set up a free discovery call. You can also follow me on Facebook. I'm Heart Wellness Coaching, and on Instagram, I'm Heart Wellness Coach. And I have a TikTok channel, Heart Wellness Coaching. So you can follow me on all the platforms. So. Yeah.
And I do follow you on all those platforms, and I love seeing your stuff. You are a wealth of knowledge and very inspiring. I'm speaking of longevity, I won't give your age away, but I really thought you were a lot younger than you really are. And so you're living, you're walking the walk, talking the talk. So I appreciate what you do, Angie.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. I feel so blessed to have found this sort of fountain of youth that is like all the things that I practice and preach. And it feels like it's an amazing blessing to be able to teach it to other people. And so, yeah, I appreciate being able to be on and share a little bit, and always can nerd out talking about fasting.
I know. That's one of the reasons I love having you on, because there's a lot of things we can just talk about. And the conversation can go many different directions.
Yeah.
It's
always fun.
Being on today, Angie.
Absolutely. You too.
You've helped us realize our goal, which is to educate and empower individuals to take charge of their own health. So thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Yep. And listeners and viewers, thank you for tuning in to Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham. Tune in Thursday for our midweek podcast, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I don't know who the guest is, but you don't want to miss it. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And if you have any comments or questions, or you want to have some subjects in the future, please let us know. Thank you for listening to Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham. Thank you.